Hi, now we're in the backyard, and this is what I call my little lower level. When we first moved here, it was nothing but a pile of stones and gravel, and the owners pretty well had just made this a little dead space because the yard that big, it's not, there's not a lot of yard space. So anyways, I had the gravel all taken up, and I made this into what I call my little sanctuary area. And I come down here and sit with my tea, or just when I want to get away from the phones and everything else. And I made this little garden. I've got a little water feature there. This was basically, there had been a couple big trees when we first moved in, and it was, pretty dead, just nothing really much there at all. So I took it all apart, and we made this rock garden here, and I filled it all with perennials and annuals. And this is our cedars that we have out here. I guess I'll pan across, and this is kind of panning across the yard. And these little terrace fence that marks are at the end of our property. But we've been very lucky because the end of our property looks into our neighbors, who their house is way up. And so we look into the back of their property, which is just like a forest, and they're hardly ever back this way. Maybe sometimes when the dog Yogi runs, but for several years this property was never developed. So basically our backyard looks into a little bit of a forest, and total privacy. Now, as you can see, maybe just a little bit down there, you can just kind of see the outline of the house. That house is just built, and they just moved in. There was a tiny little cottage, because this area actually is a cottage country for the people in Vancouver, or used to be. They'd come out here to cottage country. So a lot of the homes have been tiny little cottages on them, but these great big lots. So this couple tore down the cottage and then built this great big beautiful home, Ken and Audrey. And they just moved in December, but up until then it was just a little rental cottage, and people came and went, and really not a lot of contact. So this was pretty much total privacy for 7 years. This is looking over to the far side of the little walkway here, and this is, I don't know if, I guess you can see it there. That is called, out here, they call them weeping cedars. And they kind of look like a weeping birch or whatever. But they're called weeping cedars, and they just hang. So this is kind of at the bottom. And I'm trying to see if I can, this is looking up towards the back of my house. I don't know if you can see it very well. Try and get a little, this is just, there used to be, where these flowers are, there used to be like a partition and a little half-moon fence around there. So we just thought it blocked off too much, and then obviously they didn't want to use this area because who cared, right? They had this big kind of partition up. I guess it was, like a little privacy fence with the terrace. We thought, oh, that's ridiculous, So we hauled out all that fence, and again, I put in all kinds of perennials, and been doing it like that. And yeah, so this is my little perennial gardens going up here. That little one, that's Granny. That's Tyler's doggy. He's here for a visit. She's growing. Actually, I guess the puppy was there when I was shipping her off to New York when we were there. Well, this dog has more mileage on it than you and I put together right now. But she's a little charmer. She's cute. Don't mind her a bit. So, and this, so let's just take a little walk up this way.